Karen complained about my dog's house, so I built a giant pyramid in the backyard. Have you ever felt the suffocating weight of someone else's arbitrary judgment pressing down on your personal space, demanding conformity even in the most innocent corners of your life? I'm Julian Vance, and my backyard, a sprawling, sun-drenched sanctuary in the otherwise meticulously manicured community of Willow Creek Estates, was my pride and joy. It wasn't just a patch of grass. It was a vibrant, living space, home to my beloved golden retriever, Buster, and his custom-built doghouse. Buster's abode wasn't your typical plastic kennel. It was a charming, miniature replica of a classic Tudor cottage, complete with a tiny thatched roof, working miniature windows, and a small, perfectly manicured flower box. It was a whimsical, artistic expression of my love for my best friend, and a local landmark that neighborhood kids often pointed out with delight. Then, Ms. Priscilla Sterling arrived. Priscilla, the newly elected, self-anointed queen of the Willow Creek Estates Homeowners Association, saw Buster's delightful Tudor doghouse not as a charming eccentricity, but as an unacceptable eyesore. She was all sharp angles and sharper pronouncements, a woman whose perfectly coiffed blonde hair and designer suits screamed unapproachable perfection. Her first official act, it seemed, was to send me a curt, imperious letter demanding the immediate dismantling of Buster's house. It was, according to her, excessively large, a visual blight, and a clear violation of community aesthetic guidelines. Her ultimate, thinly veiled demand was for me to replace it with a standard, unobtrusive, prefabricated kennel that would harmonize with Willow Creek's luxury aesthetic. Her tone was dripping with condescension, her words a thinly veiled threat against everything I held dear. She looked at Buster's home, a testament to joy and creativity, as if it were a festering wound on the pristine landscape she envisioned. I tried to reason with her, calmly explaining that Buster's house was well within all county-size regulations for accessory structures, meticulously maintained, and brought genuine joy to many in the neighborhood. I even provided photos of other, larger sheds and playhouses in the community that went unchallenged. Priscilla merely waved a dismissive hand, her perfectly manicured, nails glinting. "Mr. Vance," she purred, her voice a brittle whisper of disdain. "Your sentimental attachments are simply not suited for the elevated standards of Willow Creek. We are building a community of distinction, and frankly, your canine castle detracts from our property values. The bylaws are clear. All accessory structures must be uniform and unobtrusive." Her words, delivered with an air of unassailable authority, left no room for debate. She was not interested in logic or empathy. She was interested in control and conformity. The true nightmare began on a sunny Saturday morning. I stepped into the backyard with Buster, ready for our usual morning play, only to be met with a scene of utter devastation. Buster's beloved Tudor cottage lay in ruins, its thatched roof ripped off, its miniature windows shattered, and its charming walls splintered into kindling. Crude signs, emblazoned with the Willow Creek HOA logo, were hammered into the ground, declaring the area, under HOA remediation non-compliant structure removed. My heart sank, a cold dread seeping into my bones. This wasn't just an annoyance. It was an act of pure, malicious vandalism, a deliberate destruction of my property, and a cruel blow to Buster's sense of security. As I stared at the wreckage, a glint of something metallic caught my eye near the shattered remains of the roof. It was a small, ornate silver locket, one I recognized from a photo I'd seen of Priscilla wearing it at a community event. My blood ran cold. I quickly photographed the scene and then, driven by a gnawing suspicion, I reviewed my backyard security camera footage, a system I'd installed after a few minor incidents of vandalism in the neighborhood. What I saw made my stomach clench with a mixture of horror and outrage. The video, timestamped just after midnight, showed Priscilla herself, dressed in dark clothing, stealthily approaching Buster's house. She wasn't just supervising. She was actively participating, wielding a crowbar with a grim, almost gleeful determination, smashing the windows and tearing at the roof. At one point, she paused, looked directly at the camera, though clearly unaware of its presence, and muttered, "That'll teach him to defy the HOA. This property will finally look presentable." And then, a chilling detail. The camera also captured a brief, Whispered conversation between Priscilla and a man I recognized as Mr. Thompson, the head of Elite Landscapes, a company known for its aggressive tactics. They were discussing the final phase of their plan to acquire a large section of the neighborhood's common green space, claiming it was underutilized and that my doghouse was an impediment to their plans. The green space, I knew, was a vital community resource, hosting weekly farmers markets and providing a natural drainage area for the entire community. Priscilla's plan was to convert it into a private, members-only golf putting green, with Elite Landscapes receiving a lucrative contract. This wasn't just about my doghouse. It was a calculated, high-stakes conspiracy, threatening not only my property, but a vital public resource and the community's shared green space. Armed with this irrefutable evidence, the video footage of the sabotage, the incriminating conversation, and my detailed knowledge of the community's common areas, I resolved to confront Priscilla publicly. I learned she had called an emergency HOA meeting, ostensibly to present a new community initiative, the Willow Creek Exclusive Putting Green. I arrived, my evidence ready, just as Priscilla, radiating an almost unbearable smugness, began her presentation, complete with glossy renderings of the new putting green sprawling across what she claimed was underutilized HOA land. I waited for a lull, then stood up, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "Priscilla," I stated, holding up my tablet with the video paused on her smirking face. "I believe this footage and your recent actions sheds a rather inconvenient light on your putting green initiative." Her eyes, which had been sparkling with self-satisfaction, immediately narrowed. She quickly recovered, her voice sharp. "Mr. Vance, I have no idea what you're talking about. This is a private HOA matter. You are disrupting our proceedings, and your dramatics are quite unnecessary." She attempted to rally the other HOA members, painting me as a disgruntled, melodramatic homeowner, a nuisance to their refined community. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, this is precisely the kind of element we are trying to remove from our beautiful Willow Creek. But just as she was about to call for me to be removed, a quiet, unassuming woman named Dr. Lena Petrova, a renowned urban planner and environmental advocate who lived in Willow Creek and had been quietly researching the HOA's land dealings, rose from her seat. "Actually, Ms. Sterling," Dr. Petrova interjected, her voice calm but authoritative, "Mr. Vance raises a very serious point. And I also have something to add." She then projected a series of topographical maps onto the screen, clear, undeniable images showing the common green space as a designated public easement and a critical floodplain. "This proposed putting green," Dr. Petrova continued, her voice gaining strength, "is a direct violation of county zoning laws and environmental regulations. It threatens to exacerbate flooding in lower-lying areas of this community and would illegally privatize public land." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Before Priscilla could even stammer a denial, the doors to the community hall swung open. Two stern-faced individuals from the county planning department, accompanied by a county sheriff's deputy, walked in. They had been tipped off by Dr. Petrova, who had confirmed my initial suspicions. "Priscilla Sterling," one of the planning officials announced, his voice devoid of emotion, "you are in violation of multiple county ordinances. The destruction of private property, the attempted privatization of public land, and the suppression of environmental impact assessments constitute felonies. We also have reports of forged documents submitted to the county for this putting green project." Priscilla's face, which had been a mask of carefully constructed composure, crumbled into a terrified, pale mess. Her jaw went slack, her eyes darting wildly around the room, searching for an escape that wasn't there. She stammered, then erupted into a desperate, high-pitched shriek, blaming misunderstandings, overzealous contractors, and a misunderstanding of the land deeds. It was the pathetic wail of a tyrant whose kingdom had suddenly collapsed. Then, a surprising voice emerged from the crowd. Mr. Davies, a long-standing, quiet member of the HOA board and a respected local real estate agent, stood up, his face etched with regret. "And Ms. Sterling," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "perhaps you'd also like to explain why you pushed so hard for this putting green project, not for the community's benefit, but because Elite Landscapes, the company you're so eager to partner with, is secretly owned by your estranged sister, and you intended to use this deal to secure a massive personal commission and a controlling interest in her future projects, all under the guise of community enhancement. The revelation hung in the air, a final, poisoned arrow. Priscilla had been exploiting the HOA not for the community's benefit, but for her own illicit financial gain and to secure her sister's failing business. The fallout was swift and brutal. Priscilla was immediately stripped of her HOA presidency, her reign ending in public humiliation and a perp walk captured by local news. The county planning department launched a full-scale investigation, leading to severe fines and criminal charges for property destruction, environmental violations, and attempted land appropriation. Elite Landscapes, facing legal repercussions and public outrage, immediately lost their lucrative contracts and faced a barrage of investigations, leaving Priscilla utterly isolated and financially ruined. She lost her position, her reputation, her social standing, and faced a future of crushing debt and legal battles. Her karma was a public, humiliating spectacle, a direct consequence of her petty tyranny and audacious fraud. As for Buster's doghouse, while the drama unfolded, I had already initiated my backup plan. With the destruction of his Tudor cottage, I decided to build him something truly unique. Something that would make a statement. Something that would be impossible for the HOA to complain about without looking utterly ridiculous. I hired a specialized construction crew, and over the next few weeks, a truly monumental structure began to rise in my backyard. It wasn't a doghouse. It was a massive, perfectly scaled, miniature pyramid, a gleaming, geometric marvel crafted from polished granite and reinforced steel, complete with a climate-controlled interior for Buster and a small, discreet entrance. It was a silent, unyielding monument to defiance, a permanent, undeniable presence that dwarfed every other structure in the neighborhood. The HOA bylaws, meticulously reviewed by my lawyer, had no provisions against pyramids. The sight of that magnificent structure, a symbol of my unwavering will, towering over the manicured lawns of Willow Creek, was a moment of pure, unadulterated satisfaction. Buster, oblivious to the drama, simply loved his new, incredibly spacious, and undeniably unique home. I felt a profound sense of vindication, a quiet triumph that justice, however painfully achieved, had prevailed. My garden began its slow recovery, and the community, shaken but united, began the process of rebuilding trust and respecting the delicate balance of property rights and personal expression. In a world where bureaucratic power can become a weapon and individual ego can endanger an entire community, where do we draw the line between upholding rules and protecting personal property and the environment? When faced with such blatant disregard for rights and sanity, what would you have done?